like to invite to the stage our three panelists. First, we have Duncan Mackay, Charlie Milne, and Adam Buxton. And we're going to hopefully share with you some insights about what's happening in talent in this market and how we're going to hopefully be able to impart some wisdom and some takeaways that each of you can go back to your business with. One of the things that's a tradition at LinkedIn is when we introduce ourselves to company meetings or as we join the company as a new hire, we say what my name is, what I do, what's my role, and something that's not on my LinkedIn profile. So we thought we'd start with that. My name is Steve Barham. I'm responsible for talent solutions at LinkedIn in the Asia Pacific region. And something that's not on my LinkedIn profile. When I was a boy growing up in California, you have a dream. It's a very car-based environment. And so you save money, you think about, gosh, when I'm 16, maybe I'll be lucky enough to get a car. So my parents did not give me a car when I was 16. They gave me about 50 boxes of parts and in milk crates in the garage and said, son, if you'd like a car, you can go build one. So for about a year and a half, I worked with my father, and we built a 1959 Austin Healey Sprite, which I still own today. So not on my LinkedIn profile. Duncan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Duncan Mackay. I'm the National Manager of Recruitment at Super Partners. I'll come back to Super Partners because there's a lot of blank faces around the tables here. Something interesting not on my LinkedIn profile. Over 20-odd years ago, I actually did a season as a synchronized swimming instructor. No sequins, but yep, that was actually one of my summer jobs.
So, hi, my name's Charlie Milne. I'm the Head of Recruitment Strategy and Sourcing for the Westpac Group. Something new and not on my profile. I was once responsible in a prior role for exorcising an office in Malaysia.
Oh, hello everyone. I'm Adam Buxton. I'm from AMP. Been with the business for a couple of years now. Great picture of me up there. Something interesting about me that's not in my profile. In my younger days, I was, for those from the UK, I was Staffordshire's under-16 trampolining champion.
What about over 16?
Yeah, listen, I ended on a high.
Excellent. We want to make this session very interactive, and so we're going to be taking lots of questions, hopefully from you, the audience, and the way that we're going to receive those questions is via the Twitter hashtag #InTalent. So I've got hopefully my trusty iPad here, and as we're going through the panel, please tweet questions that you'd like me to ask the panel. One of the things that we were talking about before the session was each of us has taken our organizations on a journey to introduce direct sourcing or perhaps social recruiting. And so I'd like to start by asking you, what was that? Where are you in that journey? What's it look like so far within your organization?
I'm happy to start. For us at Super Partners, very, very early stages. I guess the reason behind it is we're quite risk averse as an organization. A lot of what we have to do within the recruitment function is actually convince all of our stakeholders that there is a different way to actually recruit. What we used to do as a recruitment function is wait for it all to come into us. What we're trying to do now by actually having LinkedIn Recruiter as one of the tools, and it's not the only tool, is to actually operate in the here and now. So what we've tried to do is engage as much as we can with our actual stakeholders. I've got to admit, we kind of snuck it in. I ended up actually just paying for LinkedIn Recruiter, going up to my executive and actually saying, I paid for it. We've already got it. My head's on the block. If it doesn't work, I'll be gone. So that's the way that we've done it.
Great.
I'd say we're in early stages as well. We identified a requirement when we identified what our competitors were doing in the space that we were significantly behind. We engaged with LinkedIn in a strategic partnership to identify ways to try and leapfrog some of the work that our competitors are doing to give us an advantage. We are about 6 months into that journey, and I'd say we're kind of 20 to 30% into our overall maturity.
Very good. So our journey's been a little bit different. So we started just over a year ago engaging with LinkedIn Recruiter. It was much more of an organic process. So it was approaching the business to see if there was an appetite to maybe trial one or two of the licenses initially. From there, we were able to very quickly start to demonstrate the actual success that we were having with the tool, and I think some of the slides earlier on in the conference were shown earlier. From there, we've taken on more licenses. We've looked at the different functionality that LinkedIn can provide for us, and we've slowly built up the team's capability, slowly engaging with the business to build up their capabilities, brand ambassadors, and yeah, we're still very early in the journey as well.
I think one of the biggest challenges for us, and I'm interested to hear how this resonates with you guys, but is the cultural change piece and the behavioural change that's required to support leveraging the tool to its full capacity.
Absolutely. Listen, from my perspective, again, it initially, I suppose, we were looking at how many licenses we'd got, and we did only start with a couple. From a cultural transformation perspective, we started off obviously with the recruiters that were very much early adopters of technology, and there were a couple of people in the team that we knew had an interest and had that bent to actually use the tools. So I suppose getting that enthusiasm and that engagement with those consultants initially started to build up the curiosity of the other consultants within the team. Again, looking from a business perspective, we've it's a very slow way of engaging with the business. For those people who know AMP, it's one of those businesses where we have fought very hard to win over the internal recruitment over external agencies, and we're certainly going in the right direction there. This tool's really helping us engage with the business in a different way. Great example that I have of, I think one of my team members here will know who I'm talking about. With LinkedIn Recruiter, you're able to start engaging with managers straight away. So now when we take a brief, we sit down with the manager and say, hey, look at all of these great candidates. Do they look like they're right for this position? One particular manager that we sat down with in months gone by, sat down and went, this is awesome. I know that person, I know that person, I know that person. I've got them all through an agency already. You're going in the right direction, well done. So it's kind of working with them to understand, come to us, we can find the candidates that agencies can as well. So
that's great. Charlie, I want to just, if you don't mind, double click on something you said, which was the cultural change that had to happen in order to embrace social recruiting or direct recruiting. Tell us more about what that cultural change was.
So I think that it sounds like all of us are operating in a similar environment where we come from organisations that are reasonably risk averse. And I think particularly given the financial climate that we've come from, that's not really to be surprised. For us, the cultural change piece, our recruiters have really built their careers on operating in a particular way. And the style of that recruiting was really quite embedded. It's been the culture in the business for a long time. It's proven to enable them to be successful in their careers to this point in time. So the journey that we're asking them to come on with us is going to require some time and understanding. I think one of the challenges for them is a perceived additional workload from LinkedIn, and we need to help them to understand how the tool can actually help them to simplify and reduce workload. And I think that journey is one of ongoing education and embedding and looking for support from our HR team and support from the hiring managers to help reach out to their networks and gain some sort of standardized behaviors around how we're using it.
Couldn't agree more. I think what it is you'll often hear recruiters actually say, unfortunately, LinkedIn or a different sourcing tool actually gets in the way of BAU. What we're trying to do at Super Partners is actually say, this should be habitual for you. Every single time that you've actually got a role, build that into your process. This should be BAU for you. We've been really, really pleasantly surprised. I think a lot of those discussions about early adopters, we had a conversation about this over dinner last night, and we were saying, is it a generational thing? Is it going to be your new recruiters, slightly new into recruitment, very up with social media, with Facebook, with Twitter, etc., who'll actually take it on board a little bit quicker? Not necessarily so. I've actually got one of my recruiters here as well. It's not that she's old, but she's been in recruitment for a long time, and she has probably been one of the best at actually using the tool.
I think we were mentioning that for us, I think a lot of our new recruiters, so recruiters that are newer to the business, are less entrenched in the way that we were doing things and therefore had an easier transition to using the tool, and potentially saw more of an opportunity to be early adopters with it.
Yeah, I would agree. It's exactly the same in our business. You're working with those people coming in who might be young, might be social media savvy, but I'm seeing seasoned recruiters come in and you're presenting with them with the tool and they're picking up really quickly. So
let's talk about results. Many of you, and thank you for this, responded to a survey that we sent out asking for what were some of the popular topics that you'd like this panel to address. We'll get to the number one choice in a second, but the number two choice was, what's the ROI? What's the payback been of introducing this type of transformation to your businesses? So whether it's actual hard dollars that you've been measuring, or more just stories and intangibles. Can you share what the results have been?
So for us, we're measuring cost avoidance as one of the measures, and we've been pleasantly surprised. I actually thought the time to maturity, it would take longer to ramp up to start to see financial results, but we started to see them pretty much immediately, which was testament to a combined partnering team effort between us and LinkedIn, and planning for launching the tool. The other piece that we're really big on is our followers. We've grown our followers over 6 months from, we were just over 15,000 for us as a group back in September last year, and we're now over 50,000 followers. So we're really proud of that, and particularly the 12,000 followers that we've grown across the Westpac group page, which didn't exist previously.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this probably repeating information that was shown earlier on, but with regards to return on investment, straight away, absolutely, people were using the tool in my team, and we were finding roles that even our agencies, or candidates that even our agencies couldn't fill. So it was certainly adding a different dimension to how we were trying to find these hard-to-skill people. With regards to I suppose followers and being able to reach out and communicate to those followers that are following us on LinkedIn. Absolutely, our numbers, as soon as we created our career site and our corporate profile, just shot through the roof, and it was actually quite outstanding. After a couple of months, I hadn't really paid a lot of attention to it, and then all of a sudden, the stats that we were receiving back from the reports that LinkedIn provide were showing these just tremendous jumps month by month, and it was really encouraging to know that people were getting on there and engaging with what we'd got to say.
I'll probably reverse it a little bit. I'm going to talk as if I was a slightly smaller fish in a very, very big ocean. We saw some of Adam's stats up there in regards to what AMP have actually done in the past with their return on investment. Can I just get a show of hands? Who here in this room actually knows who Super Partners is? Actually, more than I thought. Okay, so that's absolutely fantastic. Some of it actually might be linked into our pages. What we've basically had as our return on investment, if we're talking about the hard figures, we've actually had roughly about 400% return on investment. We started off with 0 followers. We're now roughly about 3,600 followers. So it's a fantastic increase over the last couple of months. What we found very interesting as well, and this is obviously linking into our employer brand, over 73% of these people are actually external. So there's been huge increases in the fact that we're a company that are relatively unknown, but we now have people actually interested in joining us.
I think the data is a huge win for us as well. So in terms of return on investment, the guys presented before, the astonishing power of that data and the power to enable us to think more strategically about our recruitment challenges and where we want to direct our efforts to get maximum return. I think it's sort of unquantifiable, the return from just that quality of information that we haven't had previously.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Some of the information that we pull from the system and share with our business leaders we're constantly being asked, where are we losing people to? We haven't really typically been able to say exactly where people are coming from or exactly where people are going when they're leaving our business. But with the analytics that are sitting within the system, we're able to start to create trends around, okay, Westpac, thank you very much. We're starting to move people from certain businesses. So yeah, it's extremely valuable information that we can use to share with the business. So.
Right. Our next question comes from the audience. It's Shane Barnfield, and he asks, have you experienced, or do you know others that have experienced hiring tradesmen, blue-collar type positions via social recruiting or LinkedIn?
We haven't really got blue collar, but one of the wins that I was hugely surprised by was the LinkedIn team actually convinced us to switch on LinkedIn for all of our roles rather than specifically more of the specialist area which we wanted to focus on. And one of the wins that we've had is around about 5 regional teller roles which are in the back of Beyond in various different outback towns. And we would never in our wildest of dreams have thought that we would have found regional tellers through using the LinkedIn tool, but actually I think it's proving way more successful than anyone would ever have anticipated in that regard.
Yeah, it's the same with us. We're not traditionally a blue-collar business, but with the shopping centres that we own, we have a lot of tradespeople that we're actually hiring into those businesses as well. We've had success in some very Mount Omni. I don't know where that is, but I know we've placed somebody in Mount Omni through LinkedIn Recruiter. So yeah, absolutely, there's a real breadth of skills that we're tapping into.
Maturity is growing as well. So in terms of the people that are joining LinkedIn, it's not just sort of the early adopters and the specialist people anymore. It's everyone and anyone.
Yes.
We've been looking at leveraging LinkedIn for graduate programs, and we're finding increasingly the population for graduates is growing at a rate of lots. Which is exciting news for us.
I think a lot of it is actually on the assumption as well that you're not going to find someone on LinkedIn. So why not give it a shot and see what actually comes from the back of it? We've mostly concentrated on some of our more senior positions, but we have had a little bit of success in some of those more junior roles just by giving it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. We've run call center campaigns where we've gotten people from LinkedIn as well, so absolutely.
Thank you. The number one most popular topic that you said that you wanted the panel to spend some time on, and it was a pretty high number, 76% of all the respondents had chosen this, but it was talent pooling. How are your organizations building and engaging with communities of talent? Are you using LinkedIn social recruiting to help you do so?
Yeah. Do you want me to go first on that one? We were talking about this yesterday. We were all surprised that talent pipelining was actually a question that might come through. I think it's probably because a lot of people are talking about it, but I don't think particularly doing very well. And I'll absolutely hold my hands up here. I don't think we're the best at talent pipelining within our business. It has to do with restrictions around headcount. It has to do with the breadth of portfolios that consultants are working on. But what we are starting to find that with tools, again with LinkedIn and our applicant tracking system, where those candidates that we want to start finding more easily are starting to be put right in front of us. So again, with the functionality of the tool, we're able to start to identify certain skills that we want to be, I suppose, alerted about that are actually coming through into the system, and then we're tapping into talent that way. Listen, I think when you're a small recruitment function, to actually start to talent pool in a very effective way, it becomes very difficult.
I think that finding the demand signals has historically been quite challenging for organisations, so identifying ahead of time and planning for what you're actually going to need. We had some challenges with getting projections from the business and built our recruitment strategy based on a model from the CLC around sort of intelligence and return on intelligence to the business and resource level and resource volume. And we targeted some specific areas of the business that we know are going to be ongoing in terms of demand, and then started to direct our resources towards pipelining for those particular areas. So we've got various levels of maturity in talent pipelining depend on the particular area of the business. So we've got some very large talent pipeline in 1 or 2 particular niche areas. We've got some great candidate mapping, thanks Lee, across a lot of our senior executive roles. But then there are other areas which I think will be areas where we've got more emerging talent needs that we're probably much more in our infancy.
And I absolutely agree with both comments. I think a lot of it is actually down to that workforce planning aspect. If you're unsure about where it is that you're actually going to be recruiting, there is going to be that tendency to say, do I invest as much time and effort into those areas? I think a lot of it will actually be linked into the succession plan as well, that a lot of the other guest speakers have been talking about. We're getting on that journey at the moment. We know that there's a lot of work getting actually put into the succession plan, excuse me, and we're actually looking at some of our critical roles. So if the business are actually telling us these are the roles that we would actually be in trouble if we actually lose the incumbents in it, those are the ones that we're actually trying to set up and act like an external agency. Start reverse marketing candidates into those areas to say, we might have a backup for you if that role was ever to be lost.
Right. I think you make a good point when you talk about agency as well. When we're engaging with the business wants an agency service where an internal function doesn't have the ability or the scope or the capacity to talent pipeline in the same way that agencies do. And I think that sometimes is the downfall of internal recruitment functions, that expectation and that response that people or the business needs. Yet at the same time, that comes at a price and there's a trade-off somewhere. So if you've got the time and the headcount to invest in talent pipeline, and then I think it's absolutely amazing. But I think most people here would be pretty restricted with the amount of time they can spend talent pipelining.
So from Twitter, we have lots of questions, thank you. We also have a request. And the request is, Adam, that you should put the fact that you're the under 16 trampolining champion on your LinkedIn profile.
I actually do have a confession here. So I was the under 16 champion, but I actually was the only person who went into the So I kind of was champion by default.
So last year we had Simon Heaton from Walmart demonstrate his ski jumping abilities by jumping off the stage at the Ivy Ballroom. So maybe later on in Marquee we could see some trampolining.
If someone's got a needle and thread, I'll happily do that because I'm sure I'll split my pants.
Here's a tactical question from Twitter and something that perhaps the audience can take home with them. What are your teams doing to engage with the candidates they're finding on LinkedIn? What leads to a successful relationship and ultimately hire with these passive candidates?
But for us at Super Partners, be as specific as you possibly can. And I'm pretty certain that it was actually spoken about before. I think it was Susan who actually said, be very, very careful about just saying hi and nothing else after that in regards to giving that person a name. If you're not specific with it, it just doesn't feel like a warm call to them whatsoever. The do's and don'ts on the social media side, if you've made contact with them, keep that contact going. You absolutely must give them some resolution at the end of it. If you're not actually proceeding with their actual application, after speaking with them, you have to let them know that they're no longer in the mix because they're passive. They are really quite passive. Charlie last night was actually saying that they're pactive, which is a mix of passive and active, but we have to be very careful about the way we interact with them.
So for us, we've been really fortunate with response rates to our in-mails. So we focused on supporting and educating our recruiters to personalise the messaging in the in-mails. So actually opening the conversations, we've accidentally on purpose become really successful at, which is a fabulous news story for us. One of the challenges then is the frequency of contact levels and getting that right and trying to adapt that to suit the different types of audience and the different types of response that you get. So I'm not necessarily sure that we've landed a specific strategy there. We have in particular areas, but others are more ad hoc, and that's probably where there's still some risk.
Yeah, probably very similar to you, Charlie. We, I think, again, going down the organic route, we've kind of seen how the different personalities within the team are using it in different ways. So some people will use it as very much a headhunting tool and start to build direct relationships up and calling and having conversations, where other people might be a little more engaging via email contacting candidates. So different people are using it in different ways and having different levels of success with those different ways. It's great because with the tool as well, you can see how different consultants are using it, and you can see what has been effective from a communication perspective, which is
do you guys have any feedback on reactions from passive candidates when the employer has researched and proactively reached out to someone that was heads down doing their job and said, hey, it looks like you'd be a great fit for Westpac or Super Partners? What are candidates saying?
Listen, I think it comes back to everyone loves to be flattered, and we're approaching people and we're saying, hey, you've got some great skills, you're out there, we're really interested in what you're doing, and do you want to have a conversation with us? The type of conversation is very different because it's been a different approach, a different type of engagement with those people, and straight away that flattery really gets people's attention.
I think Adam's point is absolutely key as well. It is the flattery bit, and it is about saying to them, I'd like to engage in the conversation. It isn't about launching straight into, I think I've got a role that will suit you, because you have no idea what their motivation actually is. You don't know if they're necessarily looking for a role or not. Their LinkedIn profile could be 2 to 3 years old. A little bit unsure on that, so it is absolutely about the conversation.
And the other piece, I think, is the conversation needs to be personalised. So it's not really very flattering to be one of 1,000 people, or to feel like you're one of 1,000 that received a mail that sort of says, hey, your talent's good. You know, it's like, if you don't know enough about me, then you're not really going to engage me. But if you show me that it's genuinely me that you're interested in, then I'm going to be hugely flattered.
Absolutely. I think the other thing, the roll-on effect from that as well, is you have these people who might not be interested at that point in time, but you're going out there and being very proactive around your sourcing in that space. You start to get referrals from the people that you're approaching, because everyone wants to help a mate, and you start to get this roll ball effect that is really beneficial.
Adam, one of the things that you mentioned was the conversations. You can actually see what's happening with the conversations, or the way that your consultants actually use the tool. How do you actually track that back onto your ATS?
Oh. This is where I go, Charlie, what did you do? So how am I tracking all of the information that's coming through from linked, the placements that we're doing on LinkedIn through to our ATS? So obviously with regards to the jobs that we're advertising on there, we filter all of the roles back through to our careers site. And then we've got the ability to, obviously, candidates as they're applying can track or nominate which sourcing channel they came from. Kind of on that point as well, it leads to, sometimes I don't think that the LinkedIn tool gets enough credit for the work that's coming through, because the roll-on effect of advertising on LinkedIn is we're noting that our referrals are starting to increase. So internal referrals where managers are being approached by people on the system because they can see they work at that company, and can they tell them any more about that job, or can they put a good word in? And so indirectly, it's reinforcing other sourcing channels for us in a really positive way.
One of the things that we're seeing a lot of in terms of kind of the bigger shifts in the industry of talent is a shift towards contingent workforce, fixed-term contracts. What's the role of social recruiting for those types of candidates, or having success leveraging something like LinkedIn to bring more flexible workers?
Yeah. Okay, so that's a tricky one. It depends on I think what the direction or the strategy is with regards to contingent recruitment in your business. So if I'm going to be honest, contingent isn't a space where we feel we can deliver the candidates in a timely way to the business. So it's not an area that we typically try and recruit in and use the tool in. What we are starting to see is that rather than that kind of temp hourly rates contingent workforce, we're starting to see more fixed term workforce hires, and we're certainly using it in that space as well. So and again, having a great deal of success.
I think the potential's there. I just don't think we're necessarily at that level of maturity. Particularly around the fixed term, we treat our fixed term in the same way as our permanent.
Yes.
On the contingent, you know, it's kind of about picking your battles really, and choosing where you're going to start from. So I think depending on the needs and demands of your business, that may or may not be a right place to start for you as an organisation.
And I think exactly the same at Super Partners. You know, fixed term, we class that as being as close to permanent as possible. I guess one of the good things about fixed terms is their profiles tend to be a little bit more up to date, because a lot of the times their engagements will only be 6 to 12 months at a time. So it actually makes it a little bit easier as an internal recruitment function to look for those candidates. On the sort of honesty side, on the contractor piece as well, it actually doesn't hit my recruitment budget on the contractor. So therefore, I get my team to concentrate on fixed term and permanent.
Absolutely. I would say though, that kind of highlights still the importance of recruitment agencies out in the market. We absolutely, yes, we're getting a lot of feedback saying, when are you going to give us the permanent roles? We're seeing huge declines in the amount of work you're giving us in that respect. But realistically, where we need the support and the partnership and the knowledge of our business with agencies is in the contingent space, and that's still very much a value to us.
I think agents' roles are adapting and I guess changing to meet the needs of our evolving landscape. So I think that the agencies that are going to do really well are the ones that are able to network on our behalf, that are able to partner and share our brand messaging and communicate as an extension of our business. Because most internal recruitment functions would benefit through having additional staff members to help them to manage more. I think there's always going to be a need to partner with agencies in some areas. I just think those are going to be more targeted relationships and perhaps more focused.
Yeah, absolutely. Linking back to that brand ambassador piece, that they are our mouthpiece out to the market a lot of the times as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of questions on Twitter. We've talked about lots of do's. Here are things that you could do to help your organization. Any recommendations on things not to do? The don'ts of either using social recruiting or social media for recruiting and employment branding?
Don't restrict your people from logging onto LinkedIn in the workplace or try and prevent them from having good quality profiles.
Absolutely. Listen, from my perspective, and this is trial and error. By no means do I profess to be an expert in this space, but what I do know is where we've got excited about a lot of things, and there's a lot of buzz talk around social media, and you think you've got to be across everything. For me, it would probably just get down and focus on one area and do that right first of all. So if you're going to look at Facebook, or if you're going to look at LinkedIn, then really focus on that one spot, nail that, and then start to look at other tools. And you'll learn a lot from what works and what doesn't work in that respect.
For us, I guess it's don't necessarily assume that if you understand LinkedIn that your team will. So a lot of the times it is about that further training. Make sure that they actually do understand what the tool can do for them in their day-to-day job. A lot of them will actually say that it's another tool that's going to take up more time. This should save them a huge amount of time by the fact that it's right there and then. They don't necessarily have to post an advert. If they get their search right within the first 2 minutes of receiving a job, they don't have to waste 10 minutes writing an ad. I think the second point that I'd probably say as well is be absolutely transparent. There will be times that LinkedIn might not necessarily work. Try not to use it as your all-encompassing crux with a hiring manager to say, we will be able to get this person on LinkedIn. Make sure you go in with the proof. You know that an agency would do the same.
Charlie, Westpac did something very unique as far as how you're engaging with employees and building up their LinkedIn profiles. And you got some pretty senior support, not only for pimping profiles at a very high level, but the reaction from your line workers about how they can leverage LinkedIn. Can you share a little bit about that?
So we partnered with LinkedIn to run a lobby launch. Our head office, I'm not sure exactly how many people in the building, but it's upwards of 5,000. And we wanted to target those individuals. I think the percentage of our workforce that was on LinkedIn at that stage was probably about 30%. And we wanted to encourage and actively encourage membership from our own teams, so for a variety of reasons. So one of that was in terms of, if our people look good, it makes us look better as an organisation. Part of it was about being brave and enabling our people to network with one another, and also to help us to get messaging out to our customers and our community more broadly. So the lobby launch was run with a photographer in our lobby and a mixed team of LinkedIn and Westpac employees, and it was hugely successful. I think we took over 1,000 photographs in the few hours that we were down there, and we're actually now going to roll it out more broadly on a national basis as part of a sort of benefits roadshow that we're running throughout the country. So yeah, it was really successful, and very grateful to LinkedIn for supporting us with that.
I love the idea. I remember pitching something similar, and one of the concerns that they actually had was, if everyone's got a good profile, we're going to lose all our good staff. But I love the idea.
So we had, I have to say, that was, I probably fielded that question from just about everybody senior walking through the door. And the answer from our perspective was, you can try and police it if you want to, but if people are going to look for other roles, they're going to do it anyway, regardless of whether you give them permission. So if they want to be active on LinkedIn, they're going to do it anyway. You may as well support them so that they can look professional and reflect positivity around your brand whilst they're doing it. So interestingly enough, there was one very senior stakeholder in our business who was hugely won over and has now asked myself and a member of the LinkedIn team to go and present to another organisation where she is on the board to talk about how they should be doing it. So it's just interesting.
One of the words that you hear most frequently in LinkedIn offices is transformation. And it's part of our values. We encourage employees to use this opportunity to transform their own careers, obviously to help transform the company and what we're about and how we can help you, and also transform the world, not only by connecting talent with opportunity at massive scale, but by giving back. And so when you think of the word transformation, is there anything that this shift has helped either your teams transform themselves or how they operate, or perhaps even you personally?
Yeah, listen, I think from my perspective, I've seen the team that I work with be a little bit skeptical about this tool, and I think as time's gone on and they've understood how to use social media or the LinkedIn tool, their confidence is starting to build, and you're seeing different types of conversations happening in the business. So where previously it was going along and taking a typical job brief, we're now getting the consultants having conversations around, let's sit down, let's look at this together, let's see what's out there. And they're getting a deeper understanding of the types of candidates that potentially managers are going to want access to. So the quality of the conversation is becoming much richer, and the engagement with the business is becoming much richer. And as you were saying before, that brand ambassador is absolutely what's going on in the business. We're getting our managers to utilize their networks to help us find people. They think it's kind of funky that we're coming to them and asking them to kind of tell us, and we're doing these searches for them, and we're getting a different level of credibility around how we're sourcing within the business. I think
it's transforming recruiters' roles, certainly. The internal recruiters' roles, as well as external agencies, which you touched on before. But I think that the recruiters now need to be more like more of a headhunter, more of a value-add consultant, somebody that really engages and understands their business unit in order to supply the best possible talent. I think it makes recruitment even more important in terms of the decision for the organisation, opportunity to influence the organisation, and it's kind of a thin end of the wedge start to support your organisation to sell differently, behave differently around ways that they use sort of online tools in support of future business.
Okay.
For my team, I can only sort of comment on the fact that it's given them a huge amount of confidence. You can see the excitement when we actually do get a placement via LinkedIn, and a lot of the comments will always be about, I'm now on an even playing field. The agency might have had that jump start on the actual role, but I'm doing exactly the same as an agency provider and getting a better candidate for them. I think also on the referral aspect that Adam was talking about as well, what used to happen with my organization was if we did get a role, our immediate conversation would be, are we thinking about anyone internally? If that is a no, have you got any referrals for this position? Now, the immediate thought of the hiring manager would always be, have I been contacted by anyone in the last week? No, I haven't, so no, I have no referrals. We're taking that away from them. We have a huge amount of success by actually sharing all of our jobs with our hiring managers if they have a profile. And without doing anything, we're getting referrals in. So yeah, world changing for us.
Great. If Duncan, Charlie, and Adam look very comfortable on stage together, I think part of that is because you were made the journey to us to Talent Connect Global last year in Las Vegas last October. And so why don't we roll the video and we'll take a quick look at what that looks like.
Serious? We've got a video? Oh dear.
You weren't aware? You were?
No.
Oh. Why don't we roll the other video then?
I thought I was the LinkedIn expert until I came to Talent Connect last year.
Coming to LinkedIn Talent Connect allowed me to share with the team the shared vision that this is the way in which recruitment is going to be done going forward.
It was so inspiring that it changed a lot of what we did in our organization over the last year.
Really wanted the opportunity to be here and sort of learn from the best of the best.
What makes this conference exciting is that you're surrounded by other people that do exactly what you do.
I always knew that recruiting was absolutely key to our organization's success, but it's really great to hear it and to be with other people who feel that way too.
I've met a lot of peers and colleagues.
I have 3 people that I've kept in touch with from 2011.
Last year I made a lot of great friends that I've stayed in touch with, and we utilize each other.
You exchange best practices, you learn new things.
It's not just a, hi, how are you doing? It's a, hey, can you help me with this? I'm looking for, this particular skill set, any ideas?
I've met a lot of folks that I probably would have never connected with unless I was actually here.
They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but the connections aren't staying here.
Having these connections with people here in a personal level and be able to just get a few minutes with them will allow me to help increase my knowledge.
And you can take back things that you understand and you can implement them fairly quickly.
I walked away with just an entire booklet full of notes and things to deliver to my team.
I left last year feeling really good about what we do.
The highlight for me is going back and executing some of these other features and taking advantage of LinkedIn that much more.
The speakers were great, the information sessions were great.
The whole format was, I think, exclusive. It's world class.
It's probably one of the best conferences that I've been to.
So I'm excited to come this year and see what we have to offer.
So a quick plug for Talent Connect Vegas. We hope you all can join us there this October. But for the panelists, you were there last year. Was it worth the 16-hour each-way flight? What's the one thing that you took back?
I'd say absolutely, and I'd also say very different video from what I was expecting, so happy. It was a fantastic event. The greatest thing about it was the transparency as well. It was very encouraging to go along to a conference to actually get told by other people in exactly the same situation that it isn't perfect for them, that they're actually only just starting out on a journey. We discussed earlier about how far along the journey are we actually at this stage. Charlie just said, what, quarter of the way through? It's nice to see, it would probably be a little bit off-putting if you just had people saying, we're 100% there, and it's absolutely perfect, because we're just starting out.
I think the other piece is that the tool is evolving so quickly that we're playing catch-up as well. So network, everybody, the people that you met, the fact that people were so open, as Duncan indicated, that have named us to be here today and have a casual discussion and be pretty transparent about how we're delivering with the solution and what we think the next opportunities are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's exhausting. It is, as you were saying, it's hyper networking because everywhere you turn, you're meeting somebody new. It's really nice to have the validation around what you're doing is not so different to the other side of the world, where we're going down a very similar path to what I've always perceived in the US as to be a lot more advanced. There were some fantastic speakers. Was it Cory Booker, the mayor of New York? Absolutely fantastic. So really diverse speakers that not just in the recruitment or talent space, but outside, bringing different perspectives in.
Perfect. So in the last 5 minutes or so, as we begin to wrap things up, let's jump back higher level. What's the biggest shift you're seeing in the industry right now today? And what impact do you think that shift has 3-5 years out?
Yep. Okay. Shall I go?
Go for it.
Go for it. I think at the moment it's that transition of how your workforce is made up, and I think more and more we've reflected on it, and I know it's a key topic of conversation at the moment out in businesses is having an agile workforce, especially in an environment that's still very sensitive. Certainly in financial services, it's not having that commitment to headcount and that ability to scale up and scale down when needed. So there's much more of an appetite for that flexibility. I think what comes with that, Duncan, you touched on it before, is getting better at workforce planning. I don't believe in Australia there are very few companies that workforce plan well. It's a buzzword that everyone wants to try and do, but I think there are very few companies actually out there doing it. With that workforce changing, it's going to require more foresight into the planning that needs to happen as well.
So for me, as anyone that knows me will know, I love to sort of cast my eye over the crystal ball and try and figure out what's going to happen in 5 years' time. I think it's kind of deconstruction of roles, so roles being based on the outcomes that you deliver rather than the presenteeism and time in the office. I think that that's going to play a big part in how we engage talent, perhaps not for a full-time job, but in different ways to achieve different outcomes. And I would gamble that I think that people will work for potentially more than one organisation simultaneously, much like a consulting model in a kind of non-competitive fields, but delivering similar outcomes based on skills.
My hope would be a lot more concentration on the workforce planning, as Adam actually said, and a lot more concentration on the succession planning piece. If they're able to nail both of those areas, then we'll always know in advance when we're actually going out external.
Excellent, excellent. And so, kind of to Susan Boer's analogy of the yellow brick road, final statement. How far do you think you are in your journey to recruiting Nirvana? And what's the one thing that you do differently? You're obviously all engaged with LinkedIn and trying to implement these solutions. Looking back and perhaps just a word of advice to the audience, what's one thing you would have done differently?
You want me to go? You're going to go?
I'll go. Listen, it was a very organic approach that we took in the business. I probably would be a little bit more planned around what we wanted to achieve. I think I would break down the segments of the business and how I wanted to approach those different audiences. So the recruiters, how I wanted to engage them, the business, how I wanted to engage those guys around the journey, and articulate that a little bit more.
I think I probably would have, there's probably two different things. One is I would have identified the approval process earlier because it was extremely lengthy. The other piece is engaging the recruiters earlier in the kind of architecture and design piece to try and get them on board with feeling part of making the solution rather than being engaged afterwards and on the receiving end.
For us, if it was the crystal ball moment, I would actually say much stronger and earlier engagement with our marketing team. Just to get the pages up, looking really, really special, because we're probably still slightly behind there. We've had some great movement over the last couple of months. We've actually just started to do status updates within the last month, and we've actually had LinkedIn Recruiter for 8 months now.
Fantastic. So stay seated. We'll kind of wrap things up, but thank you very much. That was incredibly informative, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.